This video falls under fair use. Fair use allows commentary, criticism, and reactions.
So, Tim, how you doing?
I'm doing terrific. Good morning, guys.
Fantastic.
Good morning.
Fantastic. Appreciate you for making the time. So what do you think about what's going on here?
You know, I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg. I think when you talk about arrests being made by the FBI, I think the guys that are arrested are going to sit down and, be scared to death with what they're facing, and they're going to start to cooperate, and they're going to tell the FBI everything they know, and this thing is going to spread like wildfire, and you're going to find out that this is a lot bigger than it is right now, and it's pretty big.
Tim, why do you think this is why 2 days before this announcement is made, or even 1 day before this announcement is made, Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, was on Pat McAfee? You think that was intentional?
Absolutely. I think he was trying to, get ahead of the fire a little bit and talk about that they need to get gambling under control. And I think that he's going to continue to try to figure out a way to, to put a lid on this. But it's going to be very difficult for him because I think this is widespread. I think it's going to be very damaging to the league. And, I just received a text message from one of the FBI agents that worked my case. And he basically said that they're not going to be able to cover this up like they covered up my case.
What do you mean by that? So what's the difference between this case and your case?
I think the David Stern was able to basically put a lid on it and paint me as one bad apple, the only guy involved, and nobody else did anything but me. And, we were going to move on from it. The FBI said that there was 6 or 7 other people that they wanted to indict, and this got shut down from the highest level. And then I find out, after I go to jail that, a guy by the name of Greg Andres, who was the head of the Eastern District of New York, took a job at a law firm and all of a sudden got all the outside legal counsel work for the NBA. So, it was a situation where David Stern really ran that whole investigation, and it got shut down by the, highest level people in regard to other people being involved.
Tim, so this is a bigger question for me. One of the stories was where is it Damian Jones, I think, was that gave and maybe I'm saying this incorrectly, but one of the players that was a teammate of LeBron gave word that he may not be playing the game to a guy on the outside. Do you think this is going to be tied to some NBA superstars as well? And Chauncey is a superstar. He's an NBA champion, finals MVP. He's absolutely a superstar, a head coach. But do you think some major superstar names could be tied or linked to this case here?
Absolutely. I mean, when you talk about wire fraud, that's a law that, is can be applied to many different things. And if you're just calling your buddy and telling them that somebody's not playing, even if it's a nonchalant comment, you're transferring that over state lines, that's wire fraud. And that's what I was charged with. So, yeah, there's no doubt in my mind some of these star players might have been, saying something to their buddies back home that they weren't playing, or one of the other guys weren't playing, or they weren't 100%. And bets were placed and money was made.
You can tell the referee is reflecting on his own conviction. He distinguishes between fixing a game's outcome and simply sharing insider knowledge, though he admits both are unethical. He further explains that gambling can become an addiction.
I think that, sometimes people with power and money feel that the rules don't apply to them and they're not going to get caught. And you get a little bit cocky like I did and think that you're going to get away with something like this. And you just don't. You eventually always get caught.
What is the approach that the mob takes? A lot of times I've had a lot of the folks in the mob, on, and I've talked to Michael Francis on how closely they work with the NBA and college. And remember back in the days with, UNLV, and you would hear stories about some of the guys in Vegas that would go to UNLV, and LJ and Stacey Ogman and Jerry Tarkanian. Of course, a lot of these were allegations. But what is the mob's approach when it comes down to NBA players? Why is it that a lot of the mob is tied and they target NBA? And by the way, this may open up to the NFL. Stephen A. Smith said that, they may be coming after the NFL. They may be coming after WNBA. What is the mob's approach when it comes down to working with the NBA?
Yeah, it's not just the NBA that it is. This is going to be widespread into other, professional sporting teams also. And, it's just a situation where, you're hanging out with the wrong people different times, and people are connected to the mob, and you get comfortable with somebody, you think they're your friend, and the next thing you know, they have something on you, or you're in an enormous amount of debt to them for some reason, and they have their claws into you, and they're going to put pressure on you to do things for them in regard to, information so that they can continue to make, millions and millions of dollars. So, in my situation, I remember I thought I was just going to give the guy the picks for 3 months and be done with it. And the FBI agent said they would have never, released you. You were their golden goose. And if you would have stopped giving them the picks that they wanted, they would end up killing you. So, the mob is the mob, and it's still prevalent in the United States of America. I know people think that it's not, but, it's still, working very, very hard.
Donaghy concludes that the current scandal is likely only the beginning, predicting that more names and even college-level involvement will soon be exposed, placing the entire basketball world under intense scrutiny.
Adam.
Tim, how big is the Vegas effect here? Because if you scroll back X amount of years ago, there were no professional teams in Vegas. But the NBA Summer League is based in Vegas. We know that they have the Raiders now. I believe they have a WNBA team. I think LeBron is trying to bring an actual NBA team to Vegas. We know that the Mafia was located in Vegas. People think that the Mafia went away and they're just podcasters now. They're clearly out there. How big is the Vegas effect here, in your opinion?
I think that, you used to always be told you couldn't go to Vegas, stay away from Vegas. It was nothing but trouble. I think it's just a matter of there's a market out there and they want to improve the bottom line. So, they move into Vegas. You mentioned the Summer League for the NBA out in Vegas. They put it out in Vegas because they wanted the attraction for, some of the bigger players to go out there and watch. And, it exploded out there because, people went to see it and they loved it and loved going to Vegas. So it's all about the bottom dollar when it comes to, moving out to Vegas and expanding to different areas.
And you were found, I don't know exactly, I remember it was 2007, I believe, that you were alleged.
Yes, 2007, I was found guilty of gambling and wire fraud for passing inside information over state lines.
In this interview, former NBA referee Tim Donaghy joins the podcast to discuss the latest FBI investigation into sports gambling and what he believes could be a massive scandal within professional basketball and beyond. After a brief audio delay, Donaghy begins by warning that the situation is only at the beginning and that once those arrested start cooperating with federal investigators, the story will expand dramatically. He claims that when NBA Commissioner Adam Silver appeared on a popular sports show just before the announcement, it was an attempt to get ahead of the controversy and control the narrative. Donaghy draws comparisons to his own case from the late 2000s, insisting that former Commissioner David Stern covered up the wider scope of corruption and portrayed him as the lone offender, even though the FBI allegedly wanted to indict several others. He believes similar actions will not be possible this time because the evidence is too extensive. Donaghy explains that sharing inside information, such as which players might sit out, can constitute wire fraud, meaning that even casual conversations among players could lead to legal trouble. He suggests that some superstars may have been unknowingly involved in passing such information to friends or associates who then placed bets.